Alright, A pushers. This is Mr. B, AP US History. I'm Mr. B, your source for all your knowledge and notes for Advanced Placement US History. This is Chapter 16, Part 1, The Rise of Industrial America, 1865 to 1900. We'll start off with a great quote from The Gilded Age, which gives the name to this time period. The external glitter of wealth conceals a corrupt political core that reflects the growing gap between the very few rich and the very many poor. Looks good on the outside, but it's bad on the inside. Straight to the notes. The chief characteristic, industrialization. It means the growth of factories. We're going to look at the causes and effects of both of them. The causes of the Second Industrial Revolution include raw materials, including coal, iron, copper, lead, timber, oil, cheap labor. Immigration provides millions of workers. Most of these are coming from Eastern and Southern Europe. Markets, transportation networks, including railroads, make it easy to sell manufactured goods all over the country. Capital, there's lots of money available for investment. New technology innovations and an effective patent system. Innovations such as the light bulb, electric dynamo, sewing machine, all these things plus many more increase productivity, making things faster and therefore cheaper. Combined with the transportation, fast and easy transportation, it's going to be a huge cause. Government policies, protective tariffs, benefit industries, subsidize railroad, benefit railroad monopolies, and laissez-faire government or liberal capitalism. Government, hands-off government, lazy government. Government does not regulate businesses. Also, low taxes. These are all pro-business causes of the Second Industrial Revolution. And then last but not least, talented entrepreneurs, very smart businesses that create monopolies and trusts to make millions and millions of dollars. The first monopolies and trusts turned out to be railroads. After the Civil War, railroad mileage increases dramatically. Railroads, number 1, create markets. Number 2, encourage settlement of the West. Number 3, promote other industries such as steel and coal. 4, the early monopolies. 5, they created the 4 time zones, which by the way are East, Central, Mountain, and Pacific, so the trains could run on time. The Eastern railroads connected the major cities of the East Coast with the cities in the Midwest. The Western railroads connect the East Coast to the West Coast and settled the Great Plains. The king daddy of the Western railroads is the Transcontinental Railroad, the first one, which was finished in 1896. It went from Sacramento, California to Omaha, Nebraska. It was built by Chinese and Irish immigrants. The government gave land to railroad companies. This was called subsidies, but which led to some corruption. Again, this is the Gilded Age, so there is definitely corruption. Railroad competition and consolidation. Competition is competing. Consolidation means you unite into a monopoly. Early railroad companies were prone to corruption. The Panic of 1893 allows for the consolidation, regional railroad monopolies, which eliminates competition, but that makes the system more efficient. Government attempts to regulate the railroads, including the Interstate Commerce Act of 1886, were not effective in stopping railroad monopolies. Industrial empires. The Second Industrial Revolution, post-Civil War, large-scale industry and the production of steel, petroleum, electricity, and machinery. The steel industry. Leading the way of the industrial empire in the Second Industrial Revolution is steel. This came from an innovation called the Bessemer process. It's the innovation of blasting air through molten iron to create steel cheaply, which is used to build railroads, skyscrapers, and steel bridges. The king of the steel industry was a man named Andrew Carnegie. He was a business genius, entrepreneur, who creates a steel monopoly and becomes a multi-millionaire philanthropist, which we'll talk about what a philanthropist is later. It's someone who gives away their money for charitable causes. He got his steel monopoly by pioneering vertical integration, which is where one company controls every stage of the industrial process, from the mining to the transportation to the production. This cuts out the middlemen, giving your company more profit and making other companies not be able to compete with you so that you dominate the market. J.P. Morgan, who was a banker, buys the company and creates U.S. Steel, which is the first $1 billion company in the world. That's just a fun fact. The oil industry followed, the steel industry is followed by the oil industry. The oil industry was led by J.D. Rockefeller. He created a company called the Standard Oil Trust, which was a monopoly that controlled 90% of the oil refinery business. His monopoly was an example of horizontal integration, which is by using the latest technology and efficient practices, Rockefeller could sell his oil for cheaper than any other companies, forcing them to sell their business to him. So he just buys them all. He then creates economies of scale, where he makes gigantic factories, like one gigantic factory instead of like hundreds of little tiny factories. He becomes ultra wealthy. Companies and other industries formed monopolies and trust as well, including sugar, tobacco, leather, and meat. And they called all these things sugar trust, meat trust, leather trust, etc., etc., etc. A trust is kind of like a sneaky monopoly. It's where a company owns a company that owns all the other companies, just in case you need to know the difference. Not everyone thought, in fact, a lot of people thought trusts were bad, including the middle class that feared monopolies and trusts and their unchecked power of this, these new multi-millionaire corporations. The old wealth, the urban elites resented the influence of the nouveau riche, or the new rich. These antitrust activities led to the passage of the Sherman Antitrust Act of 1890, which prohibited any combination of businesses that restrained trade, but was not effective until the Progressive Era, which is from 1901 to 1920. Laissez-faire capitalism. Laissez-faire is the idea that the role of the government did not include regulation of businesses. It's lazy government, or let it happen government. This came from a famous economist named Adam Smith, who wrote The Wealth of Nations, which was a book which thesis said businesses should be regulated by the invisible hand of the market. The invisible hand of the market is supply and demand. What makes this work is competition, because competition makes companies lower their prices and or improve their quality to get business. Along with laissez-faire capitalism is a philosophy of the Gilded Age called social Darwinism. Charles Darwin was the inventor or developer of the theory of evolution, and other intellectuals took his idea of evolution and applied it to society, especially the ideas of natural selection and survival of the fittest. One example would be Warren Graham Sumner, and it was used to justify wealth and racial segregation and later on imperialism. Andrew Carnegie justified his wealth by not social Darwinism, but by the gospel of wealth, which is the Protestant work ethic, which is work hard, and hard work and material success means God likes you, and philanthropy, which is giving your money away for charitable causes such as schools and libraries. So his philosophy was it's okay to be super, super rich as long as you give it away before you die. Technology and innovations. Greater productivity and mass-produced goods. Inventions. During the Gilded Age, there was thousands of new inventions that greatly changed American life and improved the standard of living, including, but not limited to, the transcontinental telegraph cable, which is global instant communication between the United States and Europe. This was completed in 1866. Sewing machines, by Singer sewing machines. The telephone, invented by Alexander Graham Bell. Cash register. The camera by G.E. Kodak. The safety razor by King Gillette. And then the most famous of all the inventors of the Gilded Age, Thomas Edison, who created the first research laboratory at Menlo Park. He was known for creating thousands of inventions. Some of his most well-known ones are the phonograph, which is a record player, the incandescent light bulb, the electric dynamo for generating electricity, and motion picture cameras. Honorable mention goes to George Westinghouse for inventing air brakes and the electric transformer, which combined with the electric dynamo is going to revolutionize the way people live all around the world. Marketing consumer goods. So how do you sell these things to the user? So you have all these new goods produced by the Second Industrial Revolution. This leads to the creation of department stores like Macy's, nationwide chain stores like Woolworth's Five and Dime store, and then packaged goods that you can buy at the store like Kellogg and Post cereals, Gustavo Swift canned meat and vegetables. And then if you don't want to go to the store and you're far out in a rural area, you can use the train to deliver goods, kind of like an old version of Amazon. So they would have mail order companies because there was no internet. And this would be Sears and Roebuck and the Montgomery Award were these wish list catalogs. The impact of industrialization, the effects. All these new inventions and innovations and new products raised the standard of living, but there was also sharper social and economic divisions between the rich, the poor, and the middle class, where the rich were very, very rich and the poor were very, very poor, and there was a developing middle class. Concentration of wealth. The richest 10% controlled 90% of the money, created a new class of millionaires. This led to the Horatio algorithm myth, which is the belief that through honesty, hard work, and a little luck, anyone can become rich. It's a rags to riches story. Andrew Carnegie actually kind of followed this little thing, but we'll learn about that at a different time. Expanding middle class. Large corporations needed white collar workers, salaried workers who didn't do manual labor, middle management. Increase in good paying jobs, professionals and small business owners then developed to provide things for the people who were working. The wage earners was pretty brutal during the Gilded Age. You worked 10 hours a day, 6 days a week for very low wages. The second wave of immigration, like we mentioned earlier, provides for this cheap labor. The real wages increased, but was not enough to provide for a family, which means oftentimes if you were poor, you needed women and children in your family to work as well to make ends meet, which leads us to our last effect of the, well, not the last effect, but the last one we're going to talk about in this set of notes is working women. During the Gilded Age, working women were mostly young and single, and 20% of the population. As soon as they got married, they would usually stop working. And that's it. That's part one. I hope you learned something. Make sure you like, subscribe, add, ring the bell for notifications, and leave positive comments. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Mr. B, out.